Okay, Roger from Mud Fossil University talking about PhDs, and I'm just going to read to you what a PhD is. This is what is a PhD. A PhD is a unique type of degree. It's unique. It involves advanced academic work and attempted by comparatively few students. Very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. Now, this means that the qualification can take on something of a mythical status. Imagine that, they're a mythic status. Are PhDs only for geniuses? Well, I mean, obviously you would think so. Do you have to discover something incredible? I believe you do, and you have to stay on top of things and make sure that your friends and your peers agree with what you do. Does the qualification make you an academic? And are higher research degrees just for people who want to be academics? Well, those are the questions, and the answers are going to follow. Let's discuss it. Okay, Roger once again, Mud Fossil University, talking today about PhDs. And most people are not familiar with what a PhD is, so we're going to go over what they do and you know what their way in life is. Now, so we know that PhD is a mythical thinker, and they people don't really understand what they do. They do things sort of in silk robes and sort of funny looking hats behind these walls, and we have no idea what they're doing. So I'm going to go over what it is. Now, there is something that they do have to do, and that is called publish or perish. That's the terminology they use, and a lot of people have admitted this to me. And it means that they have to publish a paper occasionally or at some interval that validates their existence, and they have to make that conform to their peers, and they have a peer review thing, which is more or less a club where their friends say, well, the guy's crazy, or oh, let's talk about this, and then they let them do it. And other than, if you're not in that club, you can't publish anything, and nobody will listen to you unless you're in that club. So this is what it is. It's basically a club. Now, do they have any responsibility to students? And I think they do. It's called fiduciary failure, or fiduciary duty, and if they don't do it, it's a failure. Now, I will go about this on the second part of this presentation, but it is a legal responsibility. It's being, really grossly neglected, in my opinion, and we'll discuss the legal remedies about that. Now, do they have any responsibility at all to new contradictory evidence? Because they are selling knowledge, and to the most vulnerable of anyone, they can't say anything. They have to accept what they tell them, or they will fail them in life and keep their money. So let's consider, do they have to consider anything that disproves what they're actually selling? So they could, what if it's physical specimens? Is that something they should look at or refuse to look at? And is that acceptable if they refuse? These specimens I'm referring to are validated in every scientific way. They are, well, they're here right there. They're physical specimens, and they're validated in every scientific way, CAT scanned, DNA tested, anatomist certified, and so forth. So, and they've been presented to the universities, and they refuse to examine them. Here, let me put a little light on here. You might be able to see those a little better. Anyway, so now we're going to go, what options do we have? What options do we have? So let's talk about that. Okay, the specimens I'm talking about that they refuse to examine and claim are not real are verified here. This is the report. I'm just going to scan through it real quick. It was done with ancient protocols, very, 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 all kinds of temperatures and degrees and times, and it just took months to do. And these were the three specimens, and it goes on and on and on here. They were all positive, and the negative controls were negative, and all that good stuff. Now, it goes down to this, and that shows whatever that shows. And I'm not an expert at this part, but I know how to read. And it comes down here, and it says Homo sapien mitochondrial cytochrome B gene, Homo sapien mitochondrial D loop region. And they all tested the same. And this was a specific test, very, very, top-end stuff, not some silly little thing. So anyway, that's what it is. It was certified by the lab. Okay, Roger once again, Mud Fossil University, and we're going to go through what can we do. What are our options to handle this? Because we want the truth, and the students deserve the truth. They paid for the truth, and it's being, I'm telling you, it's being ignored and on purpose, not just because they're incompetent. It's just because they're doing it on purpose. Now, so let's talk about this. So I'm talking about all teachers, not just PhDs, but I'm talking about all teachers. The PhDs are the bosses. They run the universities. They tell everybody else what they have to do. Now, they do all have a fiduciary duty. And I've studied fiduciary duty quite thoroughly, and it used to apply only to financial dealings between a client and his, estates and so forth. However, it does the wording is very, 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 very specific. That it's about the influence you have on that person's money. Listen to me carefully. It is about the influence you have on the ability for that person to earn a living or have money or his financial future. That is a fiduciary duty, and that is always in the interest of that particular vulnerable client. In this case, it's always the student first. Always, 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 always. Never, ever, ever does the professor take precedence over the student. That is his obligation and legal duty. Now, so what does the student put into this? Well, debt. Tons of debt now. I mean, it's just incredible. And now they want them to have a master's degree or they're just worthless in society. Time. Think of the time. 4, 6, 8 years they want now. The effort. You just go home and remember what we told you and we'll tell you you're smart and then you can go get a job. That's not right. The respect, no respect for these kids. Sit in a corner, be quiet. If you have a problem and you question me, I will fail you. And that's my opinion is how they react. And I feel that that's a pretty correct opinion. Now, are they competent? I see no competence there. I've showed all these things. I have the DNA tests and CAT scans and fossil evidence and anatomist that does autopsies, owns an autopsy school. This is not something that's even in question. So it can't be a matter of competence. The matter is that they're dismissive. They will not look. They demeaned me in every possible way, ignored everything that I sent. I never had any response except from Yale and Harvard, and Yale was extremely against me, and I told them that they will look foolish when this is over, and they said, well, we won't be the only ones. And I said, okay, that's correct. What do I see? I see a cult. Now, why do I say it's a cult? You have to go there and abandon your beliefs, really. I mean, they're telling you what to believe, and they don't really talk to you much about God. And I believe thoroughly in God from my research. However, it's not spoken of, and it's not really allowed to be spoken of. And if you speak of it, you are automatically considered a creationist, and every single, literally, and I'm not kidding you, I swear, virtually every single academic I've ever confronted with this, about the giants and the DNA and all of this business, and there was a flood, immediately you're a creationist. I'm telling you, I cannot remember an exception to that. So let's go on from there. So, in other words, it's a mindset against God, in my opinion. And it's a cult because they force the kids to sit in a corner, believe what I tell you, give me your money, and shut up. And if you don't say what I tell you to say, then you're not going to be able to be successful in society. That's a cult. I've never heard of a bigger cult in my life. Now, and it's also a fraud because they won't examine what proves them wrong. That equals a crime. You see what we're doing here? We're doing a little addition. And actually some multiplication. We go a little on the higher end. Now, so that's a crime. So now what is the end of this? Times millions of students, well, times their life savings equals the amount due back to those students. The only thing I can think to cause this to happen is class action. And that's all I can say. I have no horse in this race. I'm not going to sue anybody. I'm just saying this is what has to be done. And if it doesn't get rectified at the university level very, very, very soon, and this happens to be January 10th of 2018, and this has been going on for 5 years, with evidence that is unimpeachable. Now, it's time for them in these ivory towers to respond. And if you don't go to your professor and point him to this video and point him to my information, then you are at fault. I have done everything I can do to help you. And that's the end that I can do.